This video will walk you through how we make use of a tool called Naviance as we work with your students. What we'll do in this video is look at what Naviance actually is, how it's used, and I'll show you a couple of different ways that you can make use of it, whether you're a student or a parent. Naviance primarily is three things. It is a research tool, it's an organizational tool, and it's also a way that we at St. Croix Lutheran Academy contact different colleges and universities, especially as we send secure academic materials to those institutions. As we look further at what Naviance is, what I'd like to do is get into how to set up an account. In order to log into Naviance, you'll go to naviance.com and click where it says for students and parents. The first thing you need to do is type in the school's zip code, which is 55118. Then you'll need to click St. Croix Lutheran, and if you're a student, you'll click the student button. Parents will click the parent or guardian button. I will click the student button and get logged in. All students at St. Croix Lutheran are automatically set up with a Naviance account. If your student is new, they likely won't know their account information until a couple weeks into the school year. Parents are able to get Naviance accounts as well. In order to get an account, contact one of the guidance counselors. You'll see the contact information at the last slide of this presentation. One of the great things that you can do at Naviance is do some research into different colleges. If I click on the Colleges tab, I can see a few different options for how to research. There are quite a few, and we'll go over most of them with the students. To show you the general idea of how this works, I will just click on colleges I'm thinking about. I want to add a college to my list. I think the easiest way to do this is with a keyword, and I'm going to look up the University of Minnesota. Now, if I would just type Minnesota, I'd get probably 50 different examples of colleges, so I'm going to type Twin Cities. And when I type Twin Cities, I can see the University of Minnesota Twin Cities right here. When I click that school, I get taken to the school's Naviance page. There's lots of good information that's here. For example, graduation rates, acceptance rates, deadlines that exist, and other things that are very important to pay attention to as you're considering applying to different colleges and universities. Even more specifically, in the acceptance rate section, there is a very useful tool here called scattergrams. When you click the link below the acceptance rate percentage, it takes you here. This chart shows students from St. Croix Lutheran Academy who have applied to the University of Minnesota over the last number of years and what the result of those applications has been. You'll see a lot of different icons on this chart. The green check marks mean the student was accepted. The red X means the student was denied. The different circles indicate wait lists or being deferred, which can happen occasionally as students apply to slightly more competitive colleges and universities. This matches up the student's GPA on the left side with the student's test score on the bottom. You can also change from ACT to SAT, so you can get an even more specific look depending on which standardized test you plan to take. It's a useful thing to then compare where you might be, or where your student might be, to where previous students have been as they apply to different colleges and universities. If I think I would like to at least think about the University of Minnesota, there's a heart next to the school's name. When I click that heart, it has now been added to my list of schools that I am thinking about. There it is in my list. Eventually, you will want to add these schools to your list of schools you'll apply to. To do that, it's pretty simple. I'll click the box and then move it to my application list. I do need to know how I will apply. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. When you do add your school to the application list, please just click Add Applications. Don't click Add and Request Transcripts. We have a different system for doing that. You'll notice here that under Submission Type, there's a little computer screen with a CA in front of it, or inside it. CA stands for Common App or Common Application. There are a few different ways that you can apply to schools. Some schools require you to use Common App. Some schools require you to use just the school's website. Others, like the University of Minnesota, give you the option. Students will work with guidance counselors on what option is best for them. If you're planning to apply to a University of California school, there's a separate application specifically for those. There's also one more application type called Coalition App, which is most common for other West Coast schools.